by Matt and Lexi George. Bright Stripe specializes in residential and commercial asphalt seal coating, also excelling in line striping and layouts, thermoplastic, and infrared asphalt repair. Bright Stripe has succeeded due to their commitment to quality work for 30 years. Bright Stripe, 724-437-6090, or visit bright-stripe.com. BRITE-stripe.com.
Got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string. Never compromise what's right and uphold your family name. You got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything.
And it's 3:14 on this Monday. The following program, paid political program by Larry Daugherty, and with us in the studio, Larry Daugherty and Charity Grimm-Krupa. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hello. So, Larry, I am so happy and excited to be here with you today. Technically, this is your show. You want to, do an intro?
No, you're doing great.
So Larry Daugherty invited me on today. Larry is a candidate for the state Republican or GOP committee person statewide, and he invited me on today, and I'm excited to be here because these committee seats, although I think a lot of people, until I became involved in politics, and I like to say there was a time that I was happily ignorant of politics, and I wish I could go back to that time. But one of the things that I've learned since becoming involved is that the state committee people, if they're doing their job well, it's really a meaningful opportunity to help shape the GOP across the Commonwealth. And they do so by, being a grassroots advocate, and somebody like Larry with a farming background and a veteran background can take that lived experience and training and help vet candidates who are going to really support rural Pennsylvania and rural America. They go back to the GOP statewide committee and vote on things like party leadership. They help vet candidates. They lead the grassroots effort locally in terms of door knocking and again recruiting candidates. So Larry, first of all, why don't you introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
I'm Larry Daugherty. I've lived in Fayette County all my life. Grew up here. Served in the West Virginia and the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. Turned to farming after 2009 when I was medically retired.
Okay.
I joined actually the National Guard when I was 17.
Wow. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up in the military, so to speak. But I remember flying back home for 2 weeks of R&R from Iraq, and the people in Fayette County, as soon as I hit the ground running, we stopped at Burger King, and people were shaking my hand and everything. It was a wonderful feeling, and people are very patriotic here.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. They
Absolutely.
really love the veterans, and they really love the military, and it impressed me so much I never want to leave.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, and you know what? And I've known you now, I think, for about 4 years, and I think that part of the reason I like you so much is we've got a lot of common ground. I come from a veteran family. I was born outside of, although my family's been from this area for generations, back to the Revolutionary War era. I was actually born just outside of Fort Bragg, where my dad was stationed, learning how to jump out of airplanes. But we also have in common our farming background.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your current farm.
Well, we actually bought it on a GI disability settlement, so it's totally paid for, cash paid for. We built everything up, me and my wife and my son, no buildings or anything, and we raise heritage Galloway cattle, and we raise heritage hogs.
Yeah.
So it pretty much keeps me busy.
Yeah, no, and so I'm excited. I did not realize that, and I should have known this, but the Galloway cattle are what's commonly referred to as Oreo cows, right?
Yeah, they look like an Oreo cookie.
Okay, no, that's super exciting. How many head do you have?
15 right now.
Yeah, that's super. And so when you say heritage cows and heritage hogs, how do they get that label heritage?
They're the old line animals from like England.
Yep.
And further on, there's no genetics as far as like the Black Angus and things like that. It's more toward like George Washington's time and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just lines that they keep bringing up.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna come to your farm so you can show me. So I have Scottish Highlanders, and Scottish Highlander at this point, a lot of them are crosses with Black Angus. Now so if for the listening audience that may not know, the Scottish Highlanders have become extremely popular, so you probably know. But they're the cows with the horns and the shaggy hair. I love them. I think they're like big teddy bears. My son though, Wyatt, who is really anxious to move our herd to a Black Angus herd, so I just told him we'll have two herds, so we can we can separate them. But no, and you know what? Coming from a farming background, and I think that, and again, this is something that I appreciate in you and that I've come to value as I have gotten to know you over the last few years. You learn. You learn that, or not just learn, the value of hard work.
Absolutely.
Your cows aren't going to get fed, your cows aren't going to get watered, your hay's not going to get, produced, and making hay is one of my favorite things to do. But if you've ever made hay before, you know how labor intensive it is. Yeah, from the mowing and the raking and regardless if it's round bales or square bales. But if you're doing square bales, you better have a young crew, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you produce your own hay on your place, or?
No, we prefer to run the cattle more so.
Okay.
So we purchase all of our own hay, which
Okay.
gets expensive.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
It's what we have to do.
Right, because of the acreage you have?
Exactly. We
Yeah.
only own 40 acres. So.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're doing really well on 40 acres to have 15 cows and hogs and staying busy.
Well, I think what it is because whenever I was overseas, I created a business plan of what I want a farm to look like.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if the good Lord sends me home in one piece, maybe I can do it.
Yeah.
And He's blessed me.
Yeah.
Honestly, He's blessed me. And we were able to buy the farm and live out my dreams. So,
Yeah.
my bucket list is full, my heart's full, and everything's full.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit before we move into the specifics about the role of a state GOP committee person. Are you okay sharing a little bit about your military background?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And what branch? What was your MOS? When did you serve?
I served from 1992 to 2009. I was 11 Bravo and 11 Charlie, which is infantry.
Okay.
And then I transferred to 19 Kilo, which is the Abram tanks.
Okay.
I was on a crewman for that. And then I ended up switching to 63 Delta, which is a wheeled mechanic. But I deployed as a tanker for Iraq, but unfortunately we were in gun trucks, not tanks.
Okay.
So we did a lot of TCPs.
What's TCP?
It's basically like a traffic stop,
Okay.
searching for vehicle-borne IEDs,
Okay.
Doing convoy protection,
Okay.
Doing route clearing, which is basically you just pray and close your eyes and hope you don't get hit.
Yeah. No.
But we actually got hit, I think it was about 9 months into the deployment, we got hit with 2155 rounds.
Oh wow.
But fortunately, I was able to kind of duct tape myself up and keep on going. So.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for your service. That I can't imagine. How long were you deployed in Iraq for?
18 months.
Okay. And was that 18 months in one stint?
Well, pretty much it was, except that we had, toward the end, I had the 2 weeks of R&R to come home, which
Okay.
I tell my wife all the time, I wish I didn't because it made it twice as hard.
Yeah. At some point offline, we should compare records. My two older brothers are both military. My oldest brother was Airborne Ranger, and my second oldest is. Currently, he's a colonel in the Marine Corps, but I know that they had both done at different times, either Afghanistan or Iraq. I believe my oldest brother Josh, and I was a good bit younger, then I had seen both. Excuse me, but no, I can't stress enough how when we talk about public service, I don't think that there is anything more noble than being a veteran, and particularly, and God bless all of our veterans, because whether they actually see combat or not, they are stepping up and they are volunteering to see it.
Yeah.
So whether they stay stateside or they go overseas, but particularly our veterans such as you that have seen active combat, thank you for your sacrifice and your family's sacrifice. So
I mean, I just like to thank the country for allowing me to serve them.
Yeah.
Just because it was an honor and a privilege.
Yeah.
And it made me part of who I am today.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what, I am kind of I tell my kids I bleed red, white, and blue. So I am extremely patriotic. I am super Excited about the fact that this is America 250. I keep saying, we're going to party like it's 1776. But if it weren't for our first of all, our founding fathers and our mothers, but the brave families that stepped forward and sacrificed or potentially sacrificed their, life, liberty, and property for the American dream, and that continues to today for all of our military. So let's talk, if it's okay, then we'll switch gears a little bit to what the state GOP committee members do, and how, you can serve in that capacity.
Absolutely.
So what made you step up and say, okay, I'm going to run for state committee?
Well, I'm actually a judge of elections for my precinct, and I just love, interacting with the voters and getting to know them. And I thought that it'd be a great step up to meet more voters and to be more in tune with the community and with Fayette County itself.
Yeah. Let me stop you right there. So, this is another way for public service goes. Unfortunately, they're very much underappreciated. Judge of elections. So I know the Fayette County Election Bureau, as many election bureaus across the Commonwealth, probably across the nation, despite their best efforts, are having a hard time recruiting people to work the polls.
Absolutely.
So tell me what Judge of Election does, and tell me how long you've been serving in that capacity.
This makes my second term, and basically what the Judge of Elections does is that they set up the polling place. They make sure everything's correct, all the data's correct, and if there's any problems like provisional ballots and things like that we have to fill out for the voters to make sure that their votes count.
Yeah.
And basically for election security, to make sure everything's properly done and all the T's are crossed. Pretty much everything's behind the scenes.
And how long have you been doing that?
This makes my second term, so I've been 4 years because it's a 4-year term, so this makes my 5th year.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for that, and I'm sure, and that's in German Township.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I'm sure the Fayette County Election Bureau appreciates your efforts and your dedication. So let's talk about the state GOP committee person. If you were to be elected, what will be your priorities as one of the Fayette County GOP committee people?
I think it's to make sure that the voters don't feel alienated,
Okay.
and to be able to bring them into the meetings or the forums, whichever, and to be able to interact with them, not just on during the election time, but throughout the year, and to be able to address their concerns and their questions.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that is a priority for me is recruiting good candidates, and you and I have had this conversation multiple times.
Absolutely.
So. And again, I like to say I was happily ignorant of politics until I ran for magistrate back in 2015. And when I learned, and I lost the general election, I think by about 120 votes. And I think it was a God thing. That was not meant to be, obviously. But I learned some really important lessons then. I learned that if good, honest, ethical people don't step up and run, nothing is ever going to change. If anybody's listening that's heard me speak before, you've probably heard me say this whole spiel again, but I repeat it because I believe in it. We need people in D.C., Harrisburg, at the county level, at your township level, on the school boards that don't lust after those positions. And what I mean by that is there are certain people that, in a sick, twisted way, it's power to their head. Some people use the local races as stepping stones. And I don't mean to paint that brush broadly, because there are certainly people, particularly at your volunteer positions like your borough officials and so forth, that it's purely volunteer, and they're really just trying to do it in terms of a public service. But those are the kind of people that we need, people that recognize that, hey, even though this is going to be a sacrifice to my time, to my family, to my business, I'm doing this because I want to serve the community, and I'm feeling drawn that this may be an area where I can serve my community and step up in areas where people haven't. So, and I think that's a testament to you, and I think your personal history has shown through your volunteering and your commitment to the United States military, to your judge of elections, and I mean you have shown that in judge of elections, I mean what you get paid is kind of a lowly amount, right?
It is.
Okay, so I mean I'm assuming like most farmers, your to-do list is probably pages long.
Oh my, yes.
Okay. So when it goes back to your desire to serve, do you see the state committee position as an opportunity to serve, or is this a stepping stone for you? And I know the answer to this, but
No, absolutely. It's just an opportunity to serve a more broader voter base
okay.
and to serve Fayette County itself.
Okay. And a lot of the traditional duties that the committee people do is recruiting volunteers, building local, party infrastructure, supporting local Republican events, and increasing voter registration. Do you support all of those initiatives?
Absolutely, and it starts with getting out and meeting the voters, not just on election time again, but throughout the whole entire year to get it. For the voters to feel comfortable, they have to put a name or a face with a name.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And I think that unfortunately, when you're talking about election integrity issues, so many times, and I see this commented on various posts on Facebook, people are convinced that their vote doesn't count. And I think that that's why you need to double down. And when I say you, I mean government broadly needs to be committed to transparency and to affirming that we have free, fair, and open elections, because I wish people would understand their power is in their vote. And if they are educated and informed and they're going out, and I walk in faith. So, I mean, I really, pray that people, when they are making their choices on voting, that they are looking at, okay, what candidate is going to walk in faith and lead based on biblical principles. That's something that I personally, as a voter, I like to see. I don't just judge people by their. It's easy to say the right thing, and that's the season of political flyers, right? Judge people by their actions, judge people by their character, and not just some flyer you got in the mail. Judge people based on. For so long in Fayette County, I think that it was all so-and-so's a nice guy, I'm going to vote for so-and-so, or my friends say that this is the person that I need to vote for. Do your own homework. There is so much information out there about who you vote for that you really need to be making educated choices about who we're voting for. So what do you think? What principles should never be compromised by Republican leadership?
Honesty, the morals, the values. I firmly believe in your faith.
Yep, absolutely. How do we hold leadership accountable?
Wow.
Yeah, that it's a tough one. So
it is, and number one is that the voters should be the one that holds the leadership accountable, because we actually work for them, and I think too much during the time that respect is automatically given, it's not earned, and I firmly believe that no matter what position you're in, respect is something you have to continually to be earned every single day and through your actions.
yeah.
And by holding people accountable for, it's okay to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, at some point we have to find a common ground to work together for the betterment of the voters themselves and for the party itself.
And I commend you on that. I've seen that you've been willing to, even though there may have been conflict or turmoil or a rocky past personal history, that you've been willing to extend the olive branch and reach out to people. So, and unfortunately, the state GOP race here in Fayette County has become just so much nasty mudslinging. What do you plan to do if you win this election? What do you plan to do to help unite the Republican Party?
Well, first of all, everybody has to put their personal bias aside, and because we're all on one team.
Yeah.
And once we're able to put the personal bias aside, we can work together.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more common ground among us than there is different ground.
Yeah.
And we just have to find that.
Yeah.
And hopefully after the election, that whoever wins, that they can put the personal bias aside and
Yeah.
actually come together and work as a collective party.
Okay. And are you just for the record, are you willing to do that whether it is county Republican committee people at the county level and the state level? Are you willing to do that?
Absolutely, I would love to.
Okay. And I'm happy to join in and participate, and not participate, to support you in that effort as well. One thing I forgot to mention that I just want to make sure that we hit on is that you're a dad, right?
I am.
Yes, I mean, you check off, a lot of important boxes. I mean, faith, family, and freedom are my 3 priorities. So, and did you raise your son here in Fayette County?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Unfortunately, he moved to Florida for a better job, and
Yeah.
it's nice and sunny there, so
Yeah.
I can't blame him.
But you get to visit, right?
Once a year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate that you're willing to step up and to take this on, because I know that there has been a lot of drama associated with it, and that there are probably 100 different things that you could do. So what else do you want the audience to hear and to know about you?
Well, I feel that, like you said, for folks to do their homework, but don't judge any candidate on who you think that they're running with.
Yeah.
Judge them on their own selves, because that's very important to me. Is don't look at who I'm running with or who I'm running against. Judge me for who I am.
Yeah.
And that's all I can ask is as an open mind.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I'm glad you brought that up. So there's all these different slate cards going out and people aligning themselves with different people. Are you? And one of the things I've come to appreciate about you is that you actually remind me of a lot of guys that I grew up with. You know what I'm saying? A farm boy. And I'm just going to be blunt because that's how I am. You're a little rough around the edges. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I mean that's and again, I love it because I deal with so many politicians that 9 out of 10 politicians that you meet are as fake as they come. And we were talking the other day, and it was if they told you the sky was blue, you'd have to go outside and double check it, right?
Exactly.
I know that when I'm talking to you, that there's nothing fake about you, that it's the authentic Larry Daugherty that I'm sitting with. And if that means that you're not polished, I'd prefer that you're not polished, so I know that you're not lying to me, and that that you are being sincere. And I want to thank you for that, because I think that is an element that is missing way too often in American politics and politics right here in Fayette County. So I very much appreciate that you're stepping up to run. But even though you may be associated with a certain slate, do you consider yourself an independent, candidate? And when I say independent, obviously you're a Republican. But are you beholden to anybody? Are you anybody's puppet?
No, absolutely not. And that's the intro song.
Yep. Love Aaron Tibbin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife told me, she said that suits you to a T, because even overseas, I took care of my guys. I've got the shirt right here that they sent me, and it says that I'm a sheepdog.
Okay.
And it's more or less that I protected my guys
Yeah.
from the higher ups to make sure that they had what they needed.
Yeah.
And I feel that when people, whenever I address myself as a sheepdog, I feel that I should be a protector of the voters,
Yeah.
and to ensure that the voters' voices are heard.
Yeah.
And I'm not beholden to anybody except the good Lord and my wife.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. As a side note, I've often been referred to as a bulldog, but never a sheepdog. So I'm pretty sure the credit is to you, compliment is to you. So, what would you say to any grassroots conservative that's thinking about running for politics?
Do it.
Do it.
I mean, if your heart's in the right place and that you're that you actually mean what you say, absolutely do it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think for me too, and this is why I don't endorse. I mean, and I am open and transparent, and I will tell the world that I'm voting for Larry Daugherty. But I'm not endorsing you, and take no offense to that.
No,
And it's
not.
the same thing. The only, and I've had this conversation with multiple people. I think the only person in this world that I trust enough to endorse is my husband. Maybe Jim Custer, if Sheriff Custer's out there. But I love Sheriff Custer. But and I don't mean that as a slight to anybody. But I think we're all human. But that being said, I'm absolutely voting for you.
Well, thank you.
And would tell any of my friends, to vote for you. But I think that we have to even though it's painful. And if we don't get those good, honest, ethical people to run for any of these positions, nothing's ever going to change. And one of the things that I really appreciate, just in talking to you recently too, you are not driven by hate or by spite. And I've seen so many people in local politics that instead of supporting candidates that they can get behind, they'll support anybody that's running against a candidate that they hate. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, and that is not, they're being driven then by hate, and that should never, ever, ever be our motive, whether it's in politics or any other area of our life. And in talking to you and your willingness to say, you know what, I'm going to bury the hatchet, come to the tables with these people that we can work together, and tell me, because this is something too that I struggle with. When I am ultra good at cutting people off. If you've done me wrong or if you've proven that you're dishonest, I mean, for me, if you lie to me once, I have no use for you. I just don't have a lot of tolerance for people that are dishonest. But that being said, tell me, can you explain? I think your military background has really helped train you, so to speak, in that respect. And you do have a pleasant personality, so maybe it's part of your personality as well. But can you tell the listener how maybe your military training has helped you and what role you were in the military and how you have to look beyond those personality, maybe conflicts to work for the greater good?
Well, I think it's number one, I was a senior NCO prior to me being injured. And I had several guys behind me. And some of them I got along with, some of them I didn't. But in order for the greater good of the team and also the country and myself, that I had to rise above the personal bias and accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing is that, people not accepting other people for who they are because of different views, different opinions, and everybody's entitled to that.
Yeah.
I'm not right, they're not right, we're not wrong either.
Yeah.
But I think what it is that it kind of formed to be able to have a lot more patience because I expect a lot of myself.
Yep.
My wife tells me all the time, I'm my biggest critic, and I probably am.
Yeah.
But on the other hand is that, and she said that, not everybody's like you. And she said, and you can't accept the fact that everybody's not like you as far as, being able to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, too, is that, we need to we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
I agree.
Whenever we're in leadership positions.
Absolutely.
And we're not representing, like the military, I wasn't representing myself. I was representing this great country.
Yeah.
And I feel that I'm representing Fayette County. And, I need to hold myself to a higher standard to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what, and I think that's a fantastic way of putting it. Switching gears a little bit, I think we've got 4 or 5 more minutes. How could the party encourage more veterans, farmers, small business owners to get involved? I guess that's a little bit of a different issue, but I want to make sure we hit that.
Well, I think what we need to do as a party is to get out and knock on the doors with the grassroots.
Yeah.
And open up the doors for their concerns.
Yeah.
Face-to-face means a lot.
Yeah.
Zoom is great, emails are great, phone calls are wonderful. But if you get to know the voters, that's what I'm finding out with the judge of elections. You get to know the voters. They come in and say, hey, how you doing? They remember me.
Yeah.
And that's what I want the Fayette County voters to do is that if I'm elected, I want them to remember me.
Yeah.
I want them to say, hey, Larry, how you doing?
Yeah.
And I want to be available for that. And I think that's what the party leadership, in my personal opinion, should be able to do is to welcome the voters in, to address their concerns and make them part of it.
Well, and one of the things that we talked about recently, and when I first started door knocking for state representative, I did the same thing. Was that I was more inclined to go out into the country and hit some of the rural doors, where the driveways are, super long, and and I think it's part of our comfort zone, right?
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
But I think that and for the listener out there. Again, this is Charity Grim-Krupa. I'm here with Larry Daugherty, who's running for state GOP committee person, and we're talking about Larry and his veteran background and his farming background. He's a dad from German Township. And we're talking about all things relevant to him and to the state GOP committee. But we're talking about in the moment, the difference between rural door knocking and then going maybe to your cities or your boroughs or your subdivision plans. And a seasoned door knocker will go to the subdivision plans where they can hit on a bunch of doors. And I even when I'm door knocking, you do that now because you're trying to get your numbers up on how many doors that you hit. But I love that, and talking to Larry and some of the door knocking that he's done, he's beating on those rural doors as well. And it's interesting when you are out in the country, a lot of those people, no politicians ever knocked on their door before because it's not the easy door knocking to do. And I think that that's a testament to your personality and the fact that you will bring, in whatever position you're in, you will have a voice that reflects the voice of the farmer, of the veteran, of the rural person, or the rural Fayette County. And but I think that you need to be commended for your willingness to step up, win or lose. You should be commended.
Well, thank you.
So, what else do you have to add?
No, just my personal opinion is folks, get out and vote. Use your right to vote. Do your research, like Charity said, on each candidate, and vote with your heart.
Yeah.
And there's so many of us running at this point, so just vote with your heart and with your values and what they align with.
Okay. So we're down to 1 minute, and I just want to repeat, Charity Grimkrupa here. I am sitting here with Larry Daugherty. I have known Larry for about 4 years, and so I think it was the summer of 2022. That we first met, and it was out at the Fayette County Fairgrounds. I think it was at the Chicken Swap.
It was.
Yeah. So, and I really have come to appreciate you. We've got a lot in common. We both come. You're a veteran. I come from a military family. My dad and two of my brothers are military. We've got our roots in agriculture. Although you're probably much more active than me and my husband. I used to say I'm a farmer, and my husband likes to point out that I'm just his sidekick. But I really enjoy my time on the particularly raking hay is one of my favorite things to do. But I think that we have in common too our love for this great nation,
Absolutely.
And our love and appreciation of being honest and genuine and authentic. So I'm here to let the listeners know that I am voting for Larry Daugherty for state GOP. And Larry, thank you so very much for stepping up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Charity.
All right, Charity and Larry, thank you guys very much. And that was a paid program by Larry Daugherty. 3:45, we have Joe Orsulek coming up here next on WMBS.
Go to Ford of Uniontown and trade me in.
It's Jessica Karingala and Kevin Bain here at Ford of Uniontown. We believe in American values, hard work, honesty, and taking care of our